Got an aftermarket oil cooler on your 86? We found some serious long-term issues that most aftermarket oil cooler kits have. I'm going to show you what we found and how we fixed them right now. Alright, so a little bit of a PSA. One of the reasons we're making this video, you guys probably know we replaced 900 BRZ's engine not too long ago. He had a Jackson Racing oil cooler kit. And one thing we found, and I know this is a Gen 1 and this is also a parent kit, but what we found was this line on the bottom side was almost completely rubbed through. Again, this is a parent kit and a Gen 1, but you can see any of these aftermarket oil cooler kits where these hoses run through this headlight opening, what ends up happening, and you can see that shiny spot right there, the oil cooler hose, just naturally from the vibration of the engine, will end up getting cut on this sheet metal. And this is actually relatively sharp. You can see we reused the sheathing, but you can see right there, this was on the other side, and that sheet metal left that cut right there all the way through the hose. You can see the hose we're replacing, that cut right there from rubbing on the sheet metal next to the headlight. Again, on 900 BRZ's car. Same style cut in the same location, but his hose was almost cut all the way through. Scary stuff. So again, parent kit, but this is probably the same exact sheathing found on the Jackson kits. This stuff, you can tell by that like fiberglass looking inner layer. This is probably heat resistant, but definitely not abrasion resistant. This stuff's pretty soft. I could probably cut through this with my fingernail. So all you guys with an aftermarket oil cooler kit, please lift up your hoses, put your fingers underneath and feel around. If these are cut, you should probably take them off and look on the underside. Our solution is actually going to be to put like a rubber barrier on top of these sections. I put a slit in this silicone hose and basically laid it right on top temporarily while we could get these hoses ordered up for the customer. But basically something like this lined all around where these hoses are going to touch the sheet metal on the headlight opening. Okay, so another interesting finding when I was looking for part numbers to replace this hose. This Eaton part number ends up not quite being an automotive hose. And again, these are the hoses that come in the parent or Jackson kit. This part number actually led me to a hydraulic hose, which I thought was kind of odd. I think this was a cost savings measure. I need to see what the heat and the pressure that this stuff's rated for. So this hydraulic hose is rated for 350 psi, but I don't see a temperature rating. And I mentioned the temperature rating because part of the reason we're replacing these hoses, it's tough to tell, but these were actually like heat or age cracking at the top near the fittings, which was actually kind of scary too. You can kind of see it right there. It was far worse when there was a fitting on the inside expanding out this hose. So we are replacing that hydraulic hose with some real AeroQuip fluid transfer hose. So this is what AeroQuip actually rates for push lock automotive grade hose. You can see it's also rated for 350 psi, but unlike that hydraulic hose, this actually has a temp rating on it. So basically -40 all the way to 300 Fahrenheit, which gives us some headroom for an automotive grade hose. Yeah, always on push lock hoses. I know they say they don't need a clamp. I always put clamps on push lock hoses. So these are the Fragola clamps we're going to use for our hose. Really common on first gens, we're still newer. You get oil cooler kits without these clamps on push lock hose, and all the time, so common, car fires would happen because these hoses, without these clamps would literally blow off the fittings because of the pressure. So another thing we have to be careful about is our hose routing, right? Because there's areas like this that are sharp that the cooler hose could rub on. If we look on the other side, you could tell this didn't split through, but you could tell this was actually rubbing on the bumper beam previously. So, just making note, we gotta route these hoses away from danger pretty much. I'm sure they make some abrasion resistant sleeving. As a stopgap measure, we cut some coolant hose down the middle, and we're gonna tie this up to the oil cooler lines where they're gonna contact that headlight sheet metal. So just a second option for you guys. Alright, so moral of the story, if you have an aftermarket oil cooler on your 86, put something to protect that section where the oil cooler hoses rest on. Also put your hands under the hoses and feel if they're cut or not. They probably are, unfortunately. If they are, not a huge deal. You can replace them with the AeroQuip hoses and clamps that we listed in the video. I've used that hose and those clamps before, so I know they work.